everybody to the Single and Stiletto Show. I'm Suzanne Oshima, and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today we have on our show Robert Manni, and he's the author of The Guy's Guide to Love. And I'm so excited to have him here today because today we're talking about how to make a relationship work. So before we jump into that though, Robert, I would love for you to tell our audience just a little bit about you.
Okay, hi. Well, my background's in advertising and marketing, but now I am a content creator, a novelist, a screenwriter, radio podcast host, Guys Radio, and syndicated blogger.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into this topic of how to make a relationship work. So, Robert, I know you give 5 amazing tips on how to make a relationship work. And I know your first tip is to pay attention. So can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Sure. I had had numerous relationships over the years, and I was single for so long that I'd go to family reunions and nobody asked me if I was getting married and when. It had come to that. And I had some good relationships and I had some not so good relationships, but I had a lot of them. So I got into a new relationship, and after 3 dates, I was very happy, and I asked my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, what can I do to be a good boyfriend? Because I assumed that I must be doing something wrong, because you have to own up to the results of your behavior. And she said, pay attention. And I said, anything else? And she said, no. And I thought about it, and then I reviewed kind of my past relationships and realized that guys are not that good at paying attention, and women pay attention to everything, they're at the other end of the spectrum, almost. So I figured, well, if I can kind of meet her halfway and really be mindful about her needs and where we are in the relationship and how to keep both of us happy, then we'd be in good shape. And I guess it worked out, because a year later we got engaged, and a year later we got married, and now we have a little toddler son, and everything's been great.
Now, do you think, because you mentioned that women can go to the opposite end of the spectrum where they pay attention too much, do you think that women need to relax a little and give men a little bit of a break? Because, like you said, women can pay attention too much, and then their expectations can be super high. So what advice would you give women about paying attention too much?
I would say, don't overthink the relationship. Guys are relatively straightforward. Let the guy kind of come out on his own, show you who he is through his actions more than just words, and don't overthink it. Sometimes women will get worked up over specific details, something that an offhanded comment that a guy said, or something he might have done that's probably not that big a deal, but it can become a really big deal once 2 women get together and talk about it, and then it starts to build this issue. And a lot of times you hear guys say, hey, I'm not a mind reader, because a lot of times that doesn't play back to the guy, and then there's a problem, and the woman knows about it and the guy doesn't know about it. But it all goes back to let's like relax and let's get to know each other as people before we really start picking at things too much. So in terms of paying attention for women, I'd advise them just to dial it back a notch, and let the guy kind of come out and show you who he is on his own.
So basically what I hear you saying is don't jump to conclusions, which actually leads into your next tip, which is to give your partner the benefit of the doubt, right?
Yeah, exactly. And actually in my marriage, I would say, if I had to say one piece of advice to my wife, it would be, you have to give me the benefit of the doubt, because people are very quick to, point out if something's not completely right or doesn't feel right. But a lot of times there's a rationale behind people's behavior. So I think it's important that if you want to have a successful relationship and really get off to a good start in a relationship, that we have to give the person the benefit of the doubt, and not judge them so quickly, and realize that maybe we're overthinking, maybe the person had something else in mind, but at least let's hear them out. Let's not be too quick to jump to conclusions.
Right. Now, your third tip is about sharing values, and that may sound obvious to everybody, but can you give us some examples of some values that you think are really important that two people really need to share in order for a relationship to work?
Sure. When it comes to values, I always go back to how people were raised. So you can be opposites in terms of a couple can be opposites, but it's the values that count, and
Hmm.
usually they need to sync up. So let's say money. One person could be a spendthrift, and the other person's a penny saver. I think a lot of times it goes back to how they were raised and what their view is of money. And money can become an issue in relationships, of course. But when they have the same values as to how people view money, that helps out if people are on the same wavelength. And you can just look out for that when you're starting out in a relationship to see if those things are in sync. Also, how to treat other people, the issue of trust, uh,
Hmm.
and just how they people get along with their family or not. You don't want to judge people based on that because everybody's got a different path. But when those things are in sync, it usually helps the relationship have more of an opportunity to be lasting.
That is very true. So, your fourth tip is about keeping the lines of communication open. And would you say that women are better at doing that than men?
I think that women are more mindful of the relationship and relationship issues for sure. But
Hmm.
keeping the lines of communication open, it kind of goes back to that earlier point about giving your partner the benefit of the doubt, because it's important that neither person shut down in terms of communication and relationship, especially a new relationship, that you really have to listen, pay attention, and hear where the other person is coming from. And a lot of times people will get upset by something. Oh, he bought me flowers, but they were cheap flowers or something. And it can get out of hand very quickly. So I think it's very important that women don't expect men to read their minds, and that men are willing to engage in the communication and discuss an issue with a woman instead of shutting down. Because a lot of times guys will just throw their hands up and say, forget it. I'm going to go watch the game or something, or go out with the boys, and that's not appropriate. So both women and men have to kind of meet each other halfway. And the way to do that is always keep the lines of communication open and always listen actively to your partner.
That's a really good point. So, what would you say, because I've heard this a lot, is a woman will be dating a man that's not such a great communicator. So, how can a woman encourage him to be a great communicator without making him feel like she's criticizing him, but encouraging him to talk to her and be open with her?
I think that's a great question. And I think a great way to do that is to get a guy to first start talking about things that he enjoys.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's something like sports or whatever. What team do you like? Why do you like that team? Why do you like baseball? Why do you like football? And get into that and show an active interest in it. You might not become a huge fan like the guy, or you might, but at least you get him talking about something.
Mm-hmm.
And at work, you can talk to him about that. And a lot of times women will want to talk to the guy about work and tell him her issues with work, and the guy will try to solve the problem, and that creates a whole different scenario. But to get the guy to start talking, that starts with getting him talking about things that he enjoys, and then you can move it into things that are on your mind, and it's kind of start to like move the conversation towards the issues that are more important to you. If you got him talking, keep it going by shifting the conversation over to something you want to talk about. If he backs off a little bit, try to be gentle in terms of bringing it back and say, hey, this is something important. I'm really curious as to like how you think about that. When you start using the word like how do you feel about this or how do you feel about that, then guys think that you're going into you're having to talk or something, and a lot of times that scares guys off. So
Right.
casual, have him talk about things that he enjoys, and then shift the conversation gently over to what you want to discuss.
That's a really good point. Now, your fifth tip is about to always be dating.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, and I fall down on that many times. When you get into a relationship, people get comfortable, and you just start to unintentionally take things for granted, and that's wrong. And I'm guilty of that all the time, but I'm doing my best to improve on that. And that is that we have to keep the mindset and the heart set that the person that you're with is somebody that you're constantly wooing, not to make it work, but make it romantic. And I think a lot of men struggle with that, and they don't think that way. And I think it's really important that a guy has a mindset that they're always dating, their girlfriend, they're always dating their wife, they're always in the dating mode where a little romance goes a long way. And it's tough, and it's really tough for guys because we a lot of times assume that if there's no complaining, then everything's okay. And with a guy, because the way guys are is if they don't say something, that means things are fine. If a guy has an issue, he'll bring it up and say, "This is my issue," and he'll get an answer. Whether he accepts it or not, that's to be determined. But guys are pretty straightforward that way, and women have a little more subtext in the way they communicate. So I think we both have to understand that women and men sometimes communicate a little bit differently.
Oh my God, that's an understatement. That's a whole nother video. But okay, well, these have been some great tips. So, Robert, can you tell our audience how they can find you?
Probably the best way to find me is on my website, Robert Manni, MANNI.com. And, I'm all on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. Just look for Robert Manni. And again, the name of the novel is The Guy's Guide to Love. And you can find it anywhere. And I hope you enjoy it.
Yes, and ladies, I will testify because I actually read his book. It is an awesome book. It's really, really good. If you like Sex in the City, it's the male version of Sex in the City, and you'll love it. So thanks everybody for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show. If you like our show, it's available both in video format and podcast format. If you like to view the videos, you can go to singleandstilettos.com. And if you'd like to get the podcast, you can download it from iTunes. And if you would like to get our free ebook on the 3 secrets guaranteed to attract any man based on scientific research, you can click right here on the video, or you can go to singleandstilettos.com.